welcome to this month's episode of Fintech Firebrand. I'm Virginie O'Shea, CEO and founder of Firebrand Research, and I'm here to chat to you about all things finreg and fintech this month. Now, one of the biggest news items, I guess, if we're looking across the pond, is the appointment and the confirmation of Gary Gensler to take over as the head of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, it was a little while coming. It's been very slow on that front. We're still waiting to hear confirmation of who's going to be the head of the CFTC, which is very much a counterpart to the SEC in regulating the commodities and derivatives space. But as for the SEC, it's going to be a tough start for Gary as he comes in, because there's certainly a large remit for change this year and beyond. Some of the topics we're likely to see clarification on going forward around things like ESG, environmental, social and governance reform. There's been some moves already with regards to that. Lots of discussions, working groups being set up around that topic. Within the purview of the SEC, we're also seeing the CFTC working on climate risk policies around commodities markets as well. There's also some interesting work going on in the follow-up to the GameStop incidents or the GameStop hearings that we've had at the start of the year, and discussion about investor protection and the like. We also expect to see much more around cryptocurrency regulation and crypto assets, because that's top priority for US regulators at the moment, especially in light of the Coinbase IPO that happened this month too. So certainly big news going on within the crypto space, and certainly a lot to be monitoring. And there's been a lot of back and forth in the legal sphere with regard to the SEC's treatment of Ripple or XRP as a security. Or a security asset definition. So there's got to be a lot of discussion about terminology, taxonomies related to cryptocurrency, as well as which regulator they're going to be under the purview of in the future as well, whether it's a shared ownership between different regulators. And we also have to think about the global perspective there too. Now, looking at Europe, there's been a lot of discussion this month about data quality, particularly on the part of ESMA, who have been reviewing both EMIR for derivatives reporting and SFTR for securities financing and repo transactions reporting, and understanding and assessing the data quality underlying those reports. Now, there was a publication of the regularly scheduled report on that topic, highlights a lot of underlying issues that seem to be causing problems for the regulator with regards to monitoring risk in those markets. And obviously the data quality needs to improve. There's a data quality framework that's been set out by the regulator to try and improve these underlying items, and obviously improve industry adoption of different standards and taxonomies related to reporting. So certainly there's a lot of room to improve there, particularly with regards to things like reporting on time within the T+1 timeframe that is required for EMIR reporting, for example, and certainly with regards to consistently using the correct identifiers and particular types of data that must be reported. For example, making sure you use UTC and you're not converting things into local time zones, which is something of a problem for certain jurisdictions as well. And as part of the publication, it highlighted particular jurisdictions under national member states that were considered to be outliers, and Malta came up top, which is interesting, but France and Germany certainly could improve too. So we've got a lot of change potentially incoming around data standards, data adoption, that will certainly significantly impact those in the RegTech space going forward this year. So we expect a lot more change also in the operations space as well. If you're working in post-trade technology, this is likely to affect you and also your service providers in that market. Now, if I turn to my final thoughts, my Jerry Springer style final thoughts for the month. Earlier this month, I was looking at some of the interesting discussions that have been happening across regulators about how to get the industry to take regulatory reporting, their regulatory obligations more seriously. And now across the globe, we've had various initiatives, whether it's SMCR in the UK, SEER in Ireland, There's also BEAR, which is a cute acronym, but a very serious topic for the Australian regulator. And we have similar regimes in Hong Kong and Singapore as well that are being mooted. So certainly there's a lot of focus on individual accountability and governance. And governance being part of ESG is a big topic for the industry at large. So how do you get individuals to pay more attention? Well, you hold the individual executives to account and you potentially fine those executives. Now, it's not the easiest thing to do to be able to hold individuals to account unless they are very visible in their infractions. We can see that because of the years that we've had SMCR in place, unfortunately, we've only had one successful public fine that's been meted out for an executive, and that was the CEO of a bank. So there have been lots of investigations, but it's not necessarily been very successful in identifying the correct individuals to hold to account. So if we look forward, there's going to have to be much more enforcement on that front if the industry is to take this seriously. And as you can imagine, when it comes to competing national regimes, there may be some level of competitiveness between the regulators as to prove who has the greatest teeth in this space. And now the US, obviously as part of the GameStop discussions, has been talking about this topic too. So it'll be interesting to see whether the incoming Gary Gensler is tasked with making the industry quake in its boots a little more than it has done in previous years or in his previous incarnation. So we'll see if that's going to be a big topic for this year, but I expect it will be. And in the light of investor transparency, investor protection, maybe the regulator there will want to be seen to be taking more direct action against executives. So let's look at that. And obviously, if we look across Europe, there may be similar regimes. If it's just in Ireland at the moment in terms of EU, we can expect it to pop up as a discussion topic for ESMA and other regulators in the regions. So I expect much more on that topic, and I feel like it's a topic that will continue to run, regardless of whether we see the FCA taking more direct action, which I expect we will do. And what does this mean from a fintech standpoint? Well, I expect we'll see much more spending on RegTech going forward. Certainly we've spent a lot as an industry on compliance overall, but there are certain gaps in automation, particularly around governance tracking and some of the other areas that are going to become increasingly important and to the fore in terms of employees and individual accountability tracking as well. So let's expect to see much more fintech investment, maybe some more fintech innovation on the part of the vendors that are in that space too, maybe some interesting partnerships, mergers and acquisitions. It's going to be an interesting year.